All right, good morning. So for today's skill that I'd like you to consider working on at home, we're going to focus on kind of a larger project. For the pre-kindergarten kids, this shouldn't take an extremely large amount of time, but you may want to break it down into separate different projects over the course of a day, or if you're a younger child or if your child is struggling, maybe even over the course of a week. So the first thing that you're going to need is a grocery ad of some sort. If you're like me, you get these in the mail. You may have some you can dig out of your recycle bin, and you may have some coming this week. So grab a grocery ad or a magazine, something with pictures in it that your child can cut up. The next thing you're going to need is some scrap paper and some scissors and a marker or crayon or pencil, some sort of writing utensil. Okay, so the first task, step 1, is to ask your child to cut out some fruits, vegetables, meats, items that they like, even items that they don't like from the grocery ad. So this in itself can be a challenge. So when we work with the scissors with the kiddos, we make sure that they have the little holes obviously on top, the big holes on the bottom, and we tell them thumb on top, chop, chop, chop. Thumb on top, chop, chop, chop. Now, for some of the younger kids, this may be a challenge. They tend to want to rotate their hand over sometimes, and then that's not very effective. So if you tell them thumb on top, that does help. Strategy to help your child keep their hand engaged and their thumb on top is to give them something to hold in their armpit, whether that's a small stuffed animal, a pillow, something that they can use to actually tuck their arm into their side so they're not wanting to go all loosey-goosey and rotate their arm over. If they keep that arm tucked into their side, they're not going to have that rotation as likely to happen if you give them something to kind of hold on to. If they're not having a problem with that, they're able to keep their thumb on top, then don't worry about it. So you're going to ask them to pick out some items and see if they can cut around the item. Talk about the concept of going around. Maybe have them trace the item with their finger like I'm doing right now to cut that item out. This can be a challenge for some kids so that they're not cutting through the item, but they understand that they are to go around the item, whether that's to cut as close to the item as possible or cut more of a rectangle shape. Either way, they want to cut out as much of just that item as possible. Okay. So that's step number 1. That may be the only thing you do on a given day, and then you set those items aside in a bowl or a Ziploc bag somewhere they're not going to get lost. I would say try to cut as many items out as your child is willing, or give them a challenge. See if they can cut 10 items or 15 items. Or maybe you try cutting out 2 to 3 items each day and you spread that over multiple days. However you want to do it to get enough items in. Okay, step 1 is complete. Step 2. This is when things get a little more complicated. You're going to be talking about sorting items by their letter sound. This is what we call phonemic isolation, which means that you are isolating one sound in the word. So for the case of grapes, you would be asking them to sort by beginning sounds. So that g, grape sound. The pre-kindergarten kids have learned how to identify what sound goes with what letter. This may be a new concept for your younger kids. So you're going to be working on letters of the alphabet and what sound they make. So in the case of g, grapes, if your child is able, you could have them write whichever version, uppercase or lowercase, they're most comfortable with on your scrap piece of paper. So you might cut these in half if you want smaller spaces, or if you think your child is going to need a larger space for multiple items, you can do it that way. So the key is that you're going to be doing either the uppercase G, which we teach big curve and then little line in, or you can teach the lowercase G, little curve, and I know this is not technical words here, jump to the top, and I tell them a monkey tail down. That is not a letter pre-kindergarten parents that we have worked on yet. We have not worked on G's. So if your child is not well versed in how to make a G, that is something we're going to be starting. Okay, so grapes. So then once you have your letter written down, and you would probably consider doing this for the whole alphabet, so that as you come across items like apple, you have a piece of paper with that matching letter so that your child can then take out the item that they cut out and set it on the paper with the matching beginning sound. So I would have your child, if they've cut out these grapes, then set it or even glue it on the piece of paper that has that beginning corresponding sound. The same would apply if we did, let's say, let's find something else and sort of, okay, how about this one, spaghetti? And say they want to do spaghetti or meatball, depending. They would cut out this item, and then you would say, well, are you talking about spaghetti or meatball? And if you actually verbalize that sound and have them focus on that beginning sound, they may be able to tell you what letter they're doing. So if you really emphasize spaghetti, what first sound do you hear in spaghetti? They would probably say S. Then you can challenge your child to either write the S on their own, or you can write it for them, and then you can put that item onto that page with that sort. The goal, of course, is then, if you want to extend the challenge, to find an item that goes with every letter of the alphabet. You can also consider writing the letter and having your child trace the letter, or maybe they even want to learn how to spell the word for spaghetti or grape, and you can sound out the different letters that are part of it. So, to break this down, first thing you're going to do is find a grocery ad, challenge your child to cut out a certain number of items from the grocery ad with that thumb on top, elbow tucked in to chop, chop, chop. Your next step would be to talk about the beginning sounds of the items that they find, that phonemic isolation, and then to sort those items by that sound. See if you can find an item for every letter of the alphabet. See if you have more foods that correspond to one letter than another. Either challenge your child to write that letter or give them a letter to trace. And you could write it yourself if you think they're not ready for that tracing skill yet. So hopefully this will keep you busy, keep them engaged for this week, give you something fun to do, and not regress in those skills that are getting ready for pre-reading as we move towards kindergarten or pre-kindergarten for your kids for next year. All right, have a good one. Good luck. Let me know if you need any help.